Hello, this is Mr. Davis, and these are the Style Pile Notes. These notes are a series of lessons that are designed to help writers add sentence variety and style to their writing so that we can go beyond simple sentences such as, my dog ran, to more complicated and stylish structures like, my dog, the beautiful, courageous pug, ran hideously slow. These lessons are brief, free of overly complicated grammar jargon, and should be accessible for all learners. So, what do you need to do these Style Pile Notes? If you're in my class, ask for a copy, or if you're not in my class, print a copy of the Style Pile Notes. Here's how it works. Watch the lessons while filling in your notes. You only need the parts that are in red font. If you want to take down more notes than what's in the red font, you're free to do so. Okay, today's Style Pile Notes are going to focus on starting with an infinitive phrase. This is a really easy way to add style to your writing without too much effort. First box in your notes says, what is it? Starting with an infinitive phrase. Here are the rules and examples for your second box. Rule number 1, use to plus a verb to start off your sentence. So to plus any verb, any action to start off your sentence. Rule number 2, it must be followed by a comma. And rule number 3, the second part must complete the idea. Now, if you've watched the video on how to start a sentence with a subordinate clause, these second two rules here should look pretty familiar because they're the same rules for starting a sentence with a subordinate clause. It's really just rule number 1 that changes. So let's take a look at my example down here on the bottom. We'll check all of our rules. We have rule number 1, to plus the verb help. Help is an action, so rule number 1 is followed. To help him run faster, comma, that's followed by a comma. So we've got rule number 2 followed as well. Now, rule number 3, the second part must complete the idea. So to help him run faster, Mr. Davis slapped the buff security guard to get him to chase him. That would help me run faster. Not only that, but it completes the idea that we started with. We followed all 3 rules. Therefore, we used the infinitive phrase correctly at the start of the sentence. If you need more time to get these rules down, pause the video, but we're going to move on to the next slide. Alright, I'm asking you, is this correct? Take a moment, pause the video, and decide, based on those 3 rules we just learned, is this using an infinitive phrase at the start of the sentence correctly? So, if you said this example was using an infinitive phrase at the start of the sentence correctly, wrong, because it does not follow our 3 rules. Let's check our 3 rules as we go through. First rule, rule number 1, it has to begin with to plus a verb. To plus get. Get is an action. To get something you're doing, that's an action, right? So rule number 1 is good. Rule number 2, it must be followed by a comma. There is no comma in this sentence here, so it does not follow rule number 2. Let's take a look at another example, and let's see if we fix the problem. So let's go to the next slide. So, is this correct based on the 3 rules we just learned? I want you to pause the video and decide, is this correct? Okay, this one is actually correct. It follows all 3 rules. Rule number 1, to plus a verb, we got that right there. Rule number 2, it has to be followed by a comma. To win the race, comma. Rule number 3, the second part has to complete the idea. So to win the race, well, what do we need to do to win the race? Well, to win the race, comma, we trained harder than ever before. Rule number 1, rule number 2, rule number 3, check, check, check. We use the infinitive phrase correctly. Alright, we're down to that third box of your notes, the use it box. Tell me about your plans for summer break. How will you make the most of your vacation? Write your answer in the answer box. You can pause the video for a moment to get that answer down. Alright, here's one example of what this could look like. To make the most of my summer vacation, I plan on going to Disneyland at least 3 times, and that's absolutely true. I do plan on going to Disneyland at least 3 times this summer. Let's check our rules. Rule number 1, 2 plus a verb. Boom, we've got it. Rule number 2, must be followed by a comma. Boom. Rule number 3, the second part has to complete the idea. To make the most of my summer vacation, I plan on going to Disneyland at least 3 times. That completes the idea. Therefore, we use the infinitive phrase correctly. I want you to check your example and make sure you followed all 3 rules. If you're not sure if you've got it down correctly, call your teacher over and have him check it just to make sure you used an infinitive phrase correctly at the start of your sentence. Here are some more examples. So if you want to see a few more examples, example number 1, I don't know if growing a mustache will really help you, but there it is. And example number 2, absolutely true. Absolutely true. Alright, your job now, add infinitive phrases to the start of your sentences to add style and flair to your writing. To impress your teachers without making them hate infinitive phrases, add a few infinitive phrases throughout your writing, but don't overdo it. Just like any of these style techniques you're learning, too much of a good thing is actually a bad thing. So, although you should have a few sentences that start with infinitive phrases sprinkled throughout your writing, switch it up a little bit. Use some subordinate clauses, use some semicolons, watch some more of these videos, steal some more style from them. That way you're not always doing the same exact thing in your writing. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to ask your teacher.